Hi, folks. This is Mark by Mark A. Foster, Ph.D., for the Institute for Dialectical Meta-Realism. Let's get rolling. This is a correction to what I said two podcast episodes ago that Joe Biden had not endorsed Kamala Harris. Now, that was true in terms of his original letter, but that was not true in terms of what he said on X, formerly known as Twitter, later on. And so, with that in mind, I will read to you exactly what he said, and you will see for yourself. Now, I imagine many of you know this already, so it won't be that much of a surprise to you, but it was a surprise to me when I saw it, and so here goes. My fellow Democrats, I have decided not to accept the nomination and to focus all my energies on my duties as president for the remainder of my term. My very first decision as the party nominee in 2020 was to pick Kamala Harris as my vice president, and it's been the best decision I made. Today, I want to offer my full support and endorsement for Kamala to be the nominee of our party this year. Democrats, it's time to come together and beat Trump. Let's do this. So that's pretty much it. Couple of thoughts on that. In addition to the fact that Gavin Newsom and Gretchen Whitmer have said that they would not challenge that they would not make any attempt to go ahead and try to put their hat in the ring to become the next president. What that does is a couple of things. First of all, it pretty much leaves out any challenges at the upcoming Democratic National Convention. That is a pretty sure statement that nobody, at least nobody of any power, will challenge Kamala Harris at the Democratic National Convention. Now, there may be some low weights who may try to do something, but they will simply be ignored. Nobody will take them seriously. And so it seems virtually inevitable that Kamala Harris will become the Democratic nominee for President of the United States this November. Also, what it does is it gives additional power to Kamala Harris, even right now, because while Kamala Harris is preparing to run against President Trump, she will need to be right there with Joe Biden, meaning she will need to be around him. She will need to be shadowing him, in effect, and learn as much from him as she possibly can. Now, how much she can learn from him, I don't know, but this is an opportunity for her to get more knowledge, more information on what it means to be president, because she knows that that will not happen this time. Now, the last time we had a situation like this, which I remember, was with Lyndon Baines Johnson. President Johnson decided not to run for president of the United States again. And so what happened? You had the Humphrey Muskie ticket. I remember Hubert Humphrey. In fact, I saw Hubert Humphrey. Hubert Humphrey came to where I lived in New York and gave a talk in an outdoor theater and presented his case for why he thought that he should be the next president of the United States. Now, in the Students' Democratic Coalition, we did many things. I think the best thing that we did, even though it was unsuccessful, was that we supported the migrant workers under Cesar Chavez and tried to give them more power, more money, more benefits. We failed. We failed regrettably. But the worst thing that we did, I think, was to support Hubert Humphrey. Now, Hubert Humphrey did his best to distance himself from President Johnson, but he couldn't do it. He couldn't do it. He tried. President Johnson was a war president, and many people, I think perhaps justifiably, blamed LBJ, Lyndon Baines Johnson, for the Vietnam War. And they saw Hubert Humphrey as his collaborator, his, in effect, second in command. And so they simply did not trust him. That meant that there was a lack of support in the Democratic Party for the Humphrey Muskie ticket. And so that is how Richard Nixon, yes, that Richard Nixon, the Watergate Richard Nixon, became elected president of the United States. It was a result of the fact that Humphrey was unable to garner enough support around him to win the presidency. Now, did I have much hope, even as a young kid, relatively, a young teenager? Not really. I didn't expect Humphrey to win. Reagan, I didn't know anything about, so I really had no opinion on him one way or the other. I was not a student of history at that time. I did not look at him back when he was the vice president to Dwight Eisenhower. And so my view of Nixon was basically neutral. But I basically went to the rally, campaigned for Humphrey, because my chapter of the Students' Democratic Coalition was doing it. And I felt that it was my duty as a member of that local chapter to take part in that rally as well. But in any event, so since Johnson dropped out of the presidential race, decided not to seek re-election, this is the first time that we have seen a sitting president make a similar decision. And interestingly, both of them have been Democratic presidents. I don't know what that means, but it's a significant fact historically. So, will Kamala Harris be able to win against Donald Trump? Or will Donald Trump win against Kamala Harris? No one knows. There is no way to know. If anybody comes to you and attempts to make a prediction to you and says, Kamala will win, Donald will win, or I guess the Donald will win, don't believe them. They do not know what they're talking about. It is true that were the election to be held today, and what is today? Today is July, and the election is November. They are lying or they are deluded. They have no idea what they are talking about. No one can possibly know that. Why? Because Kamala Harris's campaign literally just started today. I mentioned that she had a campaign commercial, which I saw today, and I was impressed by it. That is not to say I support Kamala Harris. I don't. That is not to say I support Donald Trump. I don't. That is not to say I support anyone else. I don't. But I was impressed with her commercial. I thought it was very good. So whoever she has hired to do her commercials, I hope she keeps them in place because they seem to be doing a fairly good job. So for the time being, this has been Mark by Mark A. Foster, Ph.D., for the Institute for Dialectical Meta-Realism. Have a pleasant day and an even better day tomorrow.